Ryan Day met with the media. I heard most of it. I like the part where he talked about getting around to the various position groups, rescheduling his day so he can sit in on more meetings and that sort of thing, be more of a holistic approach guy from his spot. Your thoughts about what he had to say?
Honestly, I thought yesterday was as upbeat as we've seen him in a while, and that could just be a product of coming off of spring break and wanting to get back at it, and that's your first day in pads, and so it's a different kind of atmosphere. But he seemed to be in a really good mood, especially when he knew the topic to start the day was going to be Tony Alford and losing a coach to Michigan. But he approached it pretty well, and talked about how people have to make their the decisions that are best for them. But Ohio State's going to move on and not going to look back or be worried about any information that he's taking to Michigan because things are so early. Because somebody asked, I think Dave Biddle from 24/7 asked, "Are you concerned about Tony Alford taking your playbook essentially to Michigan?" And he said it was 2 practices. We're just starting to look at stuff and do stuff. Chip had only thrown in a couple of things, and you also have to figure out what your guys can do, especially what your quarterbacks can do. That dictates so much of your offense anyway, and so that's all still to be determined well in the future. So I don't think there's any concerns there, but overall just an upbeat Dave from Day, who is now the temporary substitute running backs coach. And he's had some fun there. And I think it's honestly a pretty good move by him to be hands-on with the position group most affected by this departure. So he can be there to talk with them, to get them through this. And then he also said they are going to be part of the decision-making process on the new coach, the new position coach. They'll be involved in some meetings. They'll meet with the candidates and be part of it. It's still going to be Day's decision. He'll get feedback from Chip Day and Chip Kelly and the players. But I think he's kind of empowering the players to help him in this decision, but also being there for them as they go through this change.
Well, based on their background and based on their working relationship and what it sounds like it's going to be in the future, we could possibly go with Chip Day and Ryan Kelly possibly at times. Because it does sound like Chip Kelly is going to have a large hand, not just in the offense, but in these type of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and, they have 2 great offensive coaches there, Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, and now they're both hands-on with the athletes, and I think that can only be a good thing. Ryan Day obviously coaching running backs for the first time in forever, so that's good, I think, for him and for those running backs to develop that type of rapport with the head coach. I think it's very important. So I think they're going to make the best of the situation. It's not what anybody wanted, believe me. I did not get to go yesterday. I've been dealing with a little bit of the flu, and so I've been kind of struggling on this end. But, everything that I heard yesterday, it sounded like he's taken to this and really making, his point to do the best job he can for the running backs until they get somebody in there. How soon will they get somebody in there? Could be, maybe next week. Hard to say. You hear talk that DeMarco Murray may be coming in from Oklahoma to interview for the job, and he's the favorite to get the job. So, we'll see if that all pans out, that maybe he steps right in later this week or early next week, and he's the guy. I mean, it's jarring to see photos of Tony Alford already on the field working at Michigan. And you're just like, man, life does truly come at you very fast. So, and I found that out this week. Just Superman got smoted down a little bit. So we'll just put it like that.
What you threw up one of the comments from Matthew Miller about wishing we landed an NFL guy with the ability to recruit like Brian Hartline or Tim Moulton. Ryan Day talked about the importance of this guy being the new running backs coach, being a recruiter, a talented recruiter. But he also said there doesn't necessarily need to be a track record of recruiting. You need the best guy for the job. And then he cited himself as a guy who had no really track record of recruiting at Ohio State, and also Brian Hartline having no track record recruiting at Ohio State. And both of those two have done pretty well recruiting. So you want to find the best fit, but obviously recruiting is going to be a huge aspect of that, especially at a place like Ohio State when you want to feature running backs. And right now you've got a former 5-star in Travion Henderson in there and a lowly 3-star in Quinshon Judkins trying to fight his way up the depth chart. But yeah, you look at, you mentioned DeMarco Murray. He's had a pretty good history of recruiting at Oklahoma, landed some big time guys. But I think there's a number of options out there. This is obviously a strange time to be dealing with this, but Day did not seem concerned at all. And we've heard him in the past, and you can tell when there's concern in his voice about some things, like last spring, talking about the offensive line. Like, you can pick up on some of these concerns. I didn't pick up on any of that this time, talking about the running backs coach.
And talking about the offensive line, not much to go on there. They just put the helmets on, but he was very impressed with Josh Fryer's off season in regards to getting himself in shape and prepared to physically be a better player. All right, everyone, we appreciate you being here at Buckeyes Live, right here at the Voice of College Football. We'll take your comments and questions, of course. We've got Steve here. We've got Tony here. Please lock in on their work. Bucknuts 247 Sports for Steve, and, of course, BuckeyeHuddle.com for Tony, and the Buckeye Weekly podcast. When was the last time you guys got together, Tony?
We dropped an episode yesterday after the day presser. We did a live show, and so that is available on all of your podcast platforms of choice, and also youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle.
There you go. I don't know if you guys noticed, there is a certain left tackle that's on the market now.
Well,
it doesn't sound like he's on the market anymore.
Well, no, it doesn't. But I know that
what a story.
There might have been a glimmer of hope out there.
And here's the thing. Everybody is taking all the little drips and drabs that you've got, the social media posts and the whispers and this, that, the other, and they have run with it full bore. And, here's Iowa, poor lowly Iowa. They were spurned by the kid once, went to Alabama, played, and then for whatever reason, when, of course, Nick Saban, retires, says, well, I'll go back home to Iowa and play my next 2 years, gets a hero's welcome. Somebody said he was doing car commercials within a couple of weeks of his return to Iowa, quote unquote, took all this money, which no documentation. We don't know if he got a dime. We don't know if he got $1,000. We don't know what he got. Took all this Iowa NIL money and left. Hasn't paid it back. I mean, bull crap. How would anybody know this guy's personal whatever? And, he spurned us again. And it's just like, Jesus, God, grow up. I mean, this is 2024, and this is where it's at. And this, again, hit the reset button. This is what the presidents and the athletic directors brought upon themselves from the moment California passed that law 5 years ago, and they just continue to kick the can down the road and never dealt with it. And now look what you got. Look what you got. People are going to be running away from these sports in record fashion, although it doesn't seem to be. The controversy seems to be driving more interest in this stuff, even as people are just disgusted and turn their heads from it. They can't stop watching it. The TV ratings just keep going up and up and up. So, add this to the list of BS incidents number 234 of, I can't believe this is possible. I can't believe this is happening, but it definitely is. And I feel bad for the Iowa people. They got taken once, they got taken twice, and the kid goes on spring break with his former teammates from Alabama and says, damn, it's cold in Iowa during the winter. Damn, they work us hard up here. God, we're only going to be 8-4. God, our offense is going to, bro, your offense is going to suck. Your offense always suck. Just it writes itself. I mean, everyone knows what happened. Then they twisted his arm and he's back to Alabama. So, it's interesting to me. Does he just stop going to class at Iowa and out? Credits, Schmedits, who needs credits? You know, whatever.
I think that is,
whole thing's a mess.
I think the one rule that the NCAA still has, whether they can force it or not, is you still have to have the academic requirements to transfer, even though they've gotten rid of the need to sit out. If you're a multi-time transfer, you still need to be like on course and in school. But as you guys talk about Iowa, the way they're being treated, it reminds me of the way Jenny treats Forrest Gump. She just keeps going off, and then he welcomes her back, and poor Iowa.
Now this is where we need Noon to go. You've heard it a million times. Jenny. This is where we need Noon.
I love you, Caden. But I also am not going to get upset about this because pay for play does not exist. It's not a thing. It's not supposed to be a thing. So if somebody wants to go take money from Iowa and then leave, go do it. I don't have to go play for Iowa to accept money from an Iowa collective. Come on. What are we talking about here? I thought we were on the up and up. This is just you wanting me to help your brand. This isn't about me playing for your favorite football team. This is about me helping a charity. Your car dealership it has nothing to do with me going and playing for a football team. So why are you upset? Why is a collective upset? Why can't I continue to, help you out? My image is still, I'm still well known. I'll be in Alabama.
One of the most famous athletes ever to come from Iowa. I'm not Caitlin Clark, but
so like I can't get upset. And I do think you definitely have collectives talking to outlets and to reporters, and they do get mad because they are investing in this player for obvious reasons. And so when somebody turns their back on them, they don't like that. People with money do not like when that happens to them, and they'll reach out and share their side of the story, accurate, inaccurate, whatever. But this is part of the new world now, and so you're not always going to get the financial details because it's still private. These are private citizens, but you will get some dirt, and you don't necessarily want to scorn some of these collectives or things like that. But again, go be happy, go do what you want. You're not tied to any place. You can go play wherever you want, whenever you want, for almost how many years. I'm waiting for somebody to challenge the fact that, no, I'm going to stay here for 6 years. I'm going to stay here for 7 years. I'll get my lawyers, and the NCAA is going to be like, we got enough problems. Just go ahead and keep playing. It's like the 30-year-olds that hang out at the frat houses every week. They just never going to leave.
This falls into the category. I worked for a guy, we'll call him Mr. Bucknuts, the guy who started our website in 1998, Mr. Bucknuts. And his primary businesses were grocery and payday lending. You go in and you get an advance on your paycheck, and then you go back a week later and you pay it off at an exorbitant. I borrow $300 and I pay them back $350 or whatever. Exorbitant interest rate. And he said a lot of what they did, they had to get the laws through the state legislature. And he says, when I buy my politicians, I prefer that they stay bought, was his line that he would use from time to time. And, they'd come back to him and say, well, we can't pass that law the way you want it to look. Well, the same premise has kind of come up here with Caden Proctor. They bought him to come back to Iowa, and he did not stay bought. So, it
looks like we're frozen up. No,
yeah.
I think we're back.
There we are.
We're back.
Keep going, Steve.
I'm doing good. And the other thing, this was kind of funny. This isn't even necessarily part of this discussion, but I always wondered how serious he was about, quote, buying politicians. Well, I got a call from Ohio State Trademark and Licensing one day saying that we couldn't use the name Bucknuts after we'd been using it for 6 years.
Oh, we are waiting in suspense again. That could be me having the issue here. That is possible.
We'll hear you. I can still hear you. So after 6 years, they came and said you can't use this name, and you guys, Tony at the Ozone, had the same problems. And I was like, well, how politically connected is this guy? He called his friend, quote unquote, let's call him the Speaker of the House of the Ohio legislature. He dropped a lightning bolt out of the sky on the licensing people at Ohio State. Never heard another word from him. Never heard another word. So it is a true fact. You can get things done if you're in the pocket of powerful people. So that's a good lesson to understand, I guess.
There would possibly be no way that I could ever get flagged for anything like that in regards to naming rights or any kind of connection.
No.
There. But, we'll carry on with our naming convention at this point. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. Buckeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. I could go on about Caden Proctor. We'll leave that alone because it is a done deal.
Hey,
And,
I saw him at the
Alabama.
camp. They had a camp there at Obet's like 3 years ago, and he came in for it. I'll tell you what, and he obviously started 14 games at Alabama, and they made the playoff, won the SEC. He must left tackle. He must be pretty good. I mean, if he did that, he's kind of. Did they really have two true freshmen starting, Tony? Is this really the case? Is that Downs and Proctor? I mean,
yeah. Now Proctor gave up a ton of sacks this past year. You would expect him to get better, but I almost went back and looked to see what the Alabama fans' thoughts were initially when he left. Probably some good riddance. You were terrible, and now when he comes back, it's like, oh, this is best day ever. But that's part of the fun of college football.
Only we can crap on our own pledges. You can't crap on our pledges, but we can crap on our pledges. It was funny. Last night was a microcosm of this fan base. Ohio State's trailing Cornell in the NIT in the second half, and people are jumping off buildings. And I'm like, first of all, and I don't believe this for the coaches and the players in the game, but for the other, how many people are on earth now? About 6 billion. For the other 6 billion of us, the NIT is as meaningless as anything can be. When they won it in 2008, Thad Matta said, this is great. Let's never, ever effing do this again, is what he said. That was an honest to God quote. He told the guys in the locker room, this is great. Let's never effing do it again. So, it's all about getting experience for the young players. People like they hired the wrong coach. Blah, 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 blah. And just like, God, have some perspective, people. Have some perspective on life. It isn't supposed to be like this.
Well, if they were really that invested and angry, more than 4,500 people would have shown up for the game. So,
yeah, somebody told me this kills the momentum of the program. A game that was played in front of 4,500 people live, and maybe, Mark, you're a TV person, maybe 200,000 people watched it on ESPN2. Maybe. Give me a freaking break. Nobody cares. It's just for the guys playing in the game to get more. 4 freshmen, 4 sophomores, for them to play and get more experience. And you know what? They had to gut out a win in the final minute. They are so much the better for that experience, the way it came down. And now they get to go play another Power 5 team with Virginia Tech on Saturday or Sunday. You talk about this is a no-lose proposition. You can lose the game by 15 points, you still gain something from it.
I'm not even asking those people on Twitter to gain real life perspective. Just, have you ever watched a sporting event before? It's every Saturday in the football season. Somebody takes a 10-0 lead and the other team's trash and this game's over. And it's like, have you ever watched a college football game before?
60-minute game. And in this case, it was a 40-minute game, and I've seen it 1,000 times. In the 30th minute, Ohio State started to pull it together. Now, I know they had to hit a shot in the final minute to ultimately win the game, but the cream eventually rose to the top, just like it typically will in most instances. I mean, it's not every time. It's not fail-safe. I mean, there have been upsets before, but, I mean, and there's going to be, and this tournament's going to be ripe with them, coming up starting tomorrow. But, I mean, I don't know. We could go on and on about things people, you know, Ohio State football, you know, let's think about what's really important in life. And that is, you know, just improving your position incrementally so that you're in position when the time comes.